Richard, a lot has been, well, not a lot has been made. There's been a few stories surfacing recently of Tesla drivers in China, one in particular, Zhang Yazhu, caught up in an incident of unintended acceleration, car crash. This has happened in the States as well. It's a sort of a known thing about Teslas, or allegations of this for Teslas. But strangely, she found herself being sued by the company. Can you just tell us a little bit about this incident, a bit more detail, just what happened?
Yes, well, it happened in 2021, and Zhang Yazhou was in the car, which was being driven by her father. Her mother was in the car, and also her baby niece. And they had a bad crash. I mean, in the end, her parents spent a few days in hospital, but no one was seriously injured. But it could have been awful. The car collided with two other cars and ended up crashing into a concrete barrier. So a bad collision. And she and her family insisted that at the crucial moment, the brakes on the Tesla Model 3 had failed. They insisted on this. Now, the local police didn't think so. They thought that the driver hadn't kept enough of a stopping distance from the vehicle in front. But she pursued it. She made a local complaint. But Tesla refused to hand over the data from the car. Of course, these cars are highly computerized. It's almost like an airplane's black box. You can see exactly the speed, the instrument readings before a crash. Tesla wouldn't share that. So she took it up in rather a spectacular way. She turned up outside the local Tesla showroom with this beaten up car, with a megaphone saying Tesla brakes failed, they're not safe, we could have died. And then she took it even further and went to the Shanghai Auto Show and turned up at the Tesla stand, climbed up on their gleaming red model in the stand, wearing a T-shirt saying Tesla brakes fail, and causing a lot of embarrassment to the company. The video of this was picked up and went viral online. Eventually, Tesla did release the data, which indicated that the car was speeding before the crash, and that rather than failing, the brakes had reduced speed and made the accident less bad than it was. Now, Ms. Zhang disputes this. She says, I don't believe it. She's continued her complaints. But in response to her, Tesla took her to court, sued her for defamation as a company of the company, and won. And she's been required to pay the equivalent of about 19,000 pounds. She's appealing against that verdict. But it turns out this isn't the only time, far from it, when Tesla had gone to the courts to sue their own customers.
Is it unusual for a company to sue an individual in China for defamation when it comes to liability and quality of products?
I don't think it's common. It's not a highly litigious society, like, say, the United States, or perhaps even compared to the UK. No, this kind of thing isn't all that common. I mean, journalists in Beijing have done some digging into this. It's been reported that, the numbers aren't huge, but there are at least 6 Tesla owners who claimed their cars had mechanical failures who've been sued by the company, and 6 bloggers and a couple of media organizations, online media outlets, who reported these kind of complaints and according to Tesla, defamed them. So, it's sort of about 14 cases, and nearly all of them have gone the way of the company, have gone Tesla's way.
I mean, again, your understanding of Chinese civil society will tell us this. Could Tesla pursue this course of taking a tough line with people who complain about its products without some sort of implicit backing from the state?
Well, that's the key question, of course. It's impossible to know with certainty or to prove, but I think the consensus among independent observers of the Chinese state is that the courts, the media as well, the regulatory authorities and business are not exactly in lockstep, but they're all answerable to the Chinese Communist Party. And Elon Musk, who of course is the owner of Tesla, the world's richest man, uh, gets on very well with the Chinese authorities. He's put a lot of time and effort into cultivating them, to the benefit of his company, not only in when it comes to court cases, but he's received beneficial loans, regulators have looked on him favorably and so on. This is well documented. So, you can't prove it. You have to be careful about what you claim. But many people would assume that a businessman like that, who's making big investments into China, who gets on well with the CCP, will be looked at favorably by the courts.
It's an interesting situation, China, for Elon Musk, isn't it? Because as you say, he's courted the leaders of China, built a giant factory there. It's an important market. But at the same time, the biggest competitors to Tesla, and very good competitors, are Chinese electric vehicle companies. And his new political friend, Donald Trump, is threatening China with tariffs.
Yeah, it all gets very complicated. It's true that Chinese electric vehicles have really taken off in the last few years, to the almost the sort of panic of other manufacturers around the world. And I think part of the reason is that Tesla's been in China for a few years now, and I think it was felt that the sort of example of Tesla and having Tesla in China in some ways helped the Chinese local electric industry, galvanized it, and kind of goaded it into action. So it was clearly a strategic decision that the Chinese government made very knowingly at the time. At this stage, it will be, I think, hard for them to reverse ferret on that and to start kind of tightening down on Tesla, because that would undermine their credibility in the eyes of other foreign companies that might want to invest in China, and they still want, investors. Sorry, what was the other part of your
No,
question?
that's fine, Richard. Just going back to finish, perhaps with Zhang Yazhu, is this the end of it now? Has she paid the money and presumably won't be turning up at any more motor shows with banners or anything like that?
Well, the release of this data, I think, has taken the wind out of her sails. I mean, unless it's been completely faked, which there's no indication of, then her dad was speeding. But no, she's not giving up. She's appealing the defamation finding against her. That will go ahead and eventually run its course. I think there'd be a lot of surprise if she won in the end and if Tesla lost.